Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy K Laidlaw here, and as always, I hope that this finds you well. This week, I'm going to be talking about borrowed belief, butterfly, and the importance of recognizing your own worth. I think this condition can put so many stigmas upon you. It's been interesting. I've been interviewed recently on some radio stations about the launch of my new book, and some of the questions that people have been asking have been really interesting to find out kind of where we are as a society when it comes to identifying how to support people with this particular condition. I think it's very obvious that obviously the emotional health component, as you know, is something that I'm very much aware of, that can be a big issue for a lot of women who really struggle with the fact that they not only are they very strong, independent women from a personality perspective, but they feel that their body has failed them and let them down. And then when they start to go into the medical side, to get support, and they're not actually getting that level of support that they thought, it can be very damaging to one's self-esteem and self-confidence when they think that actually they should be getting better, but they're not getting better, especially from a system that is saying that a particular painkiller or drug or surgery is going to work for them. In fact, I heard a story yesterday, and it particularly disturbed me, about a lady who'd had 73 surgeries for endometriosis and had been left with a hole in her stomach. I mean, I've had ladies, a lady who worked for me in America who had a stomach pacemaker put in after a surgery that went wrong for her for endometriosis. And I think these are the kind of stories that aren't talked about very much. And to be fair, I find them very distressing to read or hear about. And I tend not to talk about them very much because I do want my podcast to be very much an upbeat and positive place for women to come for inspiration and guidance, and to start to connect to, so you can start to connect yourself in a new way and really start to listen to your body. But it does beg the question, how barbaric sometimes that the treatment can be for women when they've had to kind of they've had no way of knowing that there is another option. I spoke to a young lady this morning who was saying she just had no idea that there was another way. I was being interviewed, and somebody said, so how come you took a different route? I said, well, I had no choice. The other route had shut its door on me, had washed their hands of me, and I really had no choice. I was forced, and I'm grateful to God every single day that I had some part of me that said there had to be another way. So as we're kind of moving in through and connecting to ourselves on this journey, because ultimately what you're doing is you're finding your way back to yourself on this journey, really learning to connect with who you are. There's a lot of methodologies as to disease and illness, and I believe that all illness stems from disharmony within, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. There's some dis-ease, there's some uncomfortableness, there's something going on inside that perhaps is just too scary for the conscious mind to even contemplate, to even understand. And this is why really starting to pay attention to kind of what's going on inside is really important. As I say, I've this week is all about promoting the second edition of my book that's coming out, and I was asked how emotional it was to publish the first book, and I remember it being incredibly emotional in that I felt how lucky I was to have found a way out, to have escaped the pain, and it felt like I had I thought endometriosis was a life sentence. And as it was, to be able to put it into remission just felt like a miracle. So again, this is why, when I'm putting out the second edition book, it feels, again, emotional. I literally pray that the ink, the words on the paper resonate with you, with women who are in pain and suffering, and can at least open a door to what is possible. Because there's nothing worse than hope being pulled away from people, and that's what I hear. And I know myself, I was at a point in my journey where I'd almost given up all hope, and that's dangerous when you've all but given up hope. Because what we're looking to do as humans is help to heal and support other people. People need to have hope. But then somebody said to me the other day, but hope can be taken away by others, but meaning can't. And it really, really struck me. And when I thought about that, so if we were looking if you can find the meaning in why this is showing up in your body, why you. So for example, my mom was one of 4 sisters. How come she had endometriosis and the rest didn't? And of course, there's the whole genetic argument, and there's certain factors that are turned on and off in genetics that, can affect it. But that's by the by. If you have this condition, why you? Why has this shown up in your body? And you'll know by now that my mythology is that we are incredibly, what I call EHISPs, exquisitely highly intuitive, sensitive people. We are the ones in the family that could see when things were about to explode, or knew when things were on a knife edge, or knew that there was going to be trouble. We picked up on all those energies. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because of the type of woman that we are, we have to learn how to manage our empathy, manage our compassion. And I say manage it because those qualities are lovely, but they can be very energetically draining if you aren't aware of how people round about you could be sucking from your energy, or how you could be overgiving in a capacity that leaves you absolutely drained. So coming back to the meaning, so what meaning is there what is the meaning behind this condition showing up? And there's a wonderful doctor who's going to be coming on my podcast soon called Dr. Kim Jobst, and he wrote a paper for the Clinton administration in the White House in the late 1990s, and was asked by the Dalai Lama to come and speak. And his paper was written about diseases of meaning, as in there was meaning behind. And I think at that particular point in that paper that he wrote, one of the quotes that he had at the top was Mother Teresa, who had quoted that the biggest disease isn't leprosy or cancer, it is the loneliness and the isolation that people feel emotionally. And again, this is, I know from my journey, the times when I questioned whether or not life was worth carrying on, or would my family be better off without me, or why me? And now I look back and I think the meaning behind was I had to evolve, and I had to transform who I was at my core, because I was under layers upon layers upon layers of other people's projection of who I should be, not what I was born to be or who I should be. I heard this other saying the other day. They said, if you are born a fish and expected to climb a tree every day, you're going to think you're a failure. But if you're a fish in the sea, you feel alive and where you should be. And it's the same, isn't it? Perhaps, everything that has evolved in your life until this point isn't serving you, isn't nurturing you, isn't feeding you on a physical, mental, psychological, and spiritual basis. But and the disease that's showing up is a way to try and get your attention. So if we were really kind of to be analytical about this and trying to dig down more into kind of what is the meaning behind everything, I would encourage you to journal about this. I encourage you to ask, what has this taught me, or what is this teaching me, and what is possible for me if I was to take back power and control? I've read a couple of books over the past couple of weeks about some fantastic, brilliant doctors who were surgeons or in the medical field who expanded their minds beyond their medical training and noticed how to support people in their endeavor to get well. Because I believe that every doctor, every consultant at the core seeks, I hope, that their patients get well. They want to alleviate pain or distress or suffering from their patients by the painkillers, drugs, and surgery that they use. But the irony is that those painkillers, drugs, and surgery are suppressors. They're symptom suppressors. They are not identifying the root causes. And some of the doctors, again, some of them have written testimonials in my book, about my book, the second edition, talk about how when you get to the root causes and you can understand the whole person, not just treat someone as a mechanical organ part, look at someone as a whole and help that person identify and get to the root cause and take back power and control. It's incredible what progress can be made in health in general, be it mental, emotional, or spiritual health. So this is where really my message today is, you know, when we're looking at the meaning of it, if you'd said to me that I would be sat here, almost 8 or 9 years later, doing what I'm doing now, I never would have imagined it in a million years. But I had to learn to let go of being who I was so that I could become who I am now. And I guess to use the analogy again, coming back to the butterfly, previous to that, it was a caterpillar stuck in a cocoon, and that caterpillar had to give up the need and let go of being a caterpillar so that it could become the butterfly. But for it to become the butterfly, it has to go through that metamorphosis. It has to go through that transformation of squeezing through that tiny hole in the cocoon, of which it strengthens its wings and allows it to fly. So when it comes to you and your own condition, we're looking for the deeper meaning. We're looking to see what fits, what doesn't fit. It's like the analogy of when you were little. I'm sure you had a beautiful pair of pink, kind of fairy, glittery shoes. But over a period of time, these shoes, you outgrew them, they became tatty, and they just don't fit you anymore. And it's the same with where you're at in your life. Is the job that you're in, is that nurturing you on your soul? Do you feel, because when you're doing something you're supposed to be doing, you can feel it in your heart and soul and spirit. You can just feel it. The amount of energy that I have now, I never imagined. I don't think I've ever had this amount of energy, even when I was little. When I was little, I was always tired. I was always exhausted. Whereas now I know I'm aligned and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So what about yourself? The work that you're in, the work that you're doing, the people that you're around, are they feeding you? Are they uplifting to you? Is it nurturing? Is it at the core of what your talents are? Because these are the kind of questions that are very, very important for your health. The same with the relationships that you have. Is there a pattern to the relationships that you have, whether it be with the opposite sex, whether it be with friends? Excuse me. Is there a pattern there where it's a one-way street? Is there a pattern there where you're the one that's always feeling hurt and upset and crying at the beholden of the other person? So this is the kind of thing, these are the kind of questions that we can start asking ourselves. We don't need to have all the answers straight away. And even as the answers might be coming up, we don't need to act on those answers either. All I seek for you by doing these podcasts, by doing these, sharing this information, is it took me a long time to wake up from the nightmare that I was in, that I didn't even know I was living. And what it took for me was my body to go on complete strike, if you like, end up bedridden before I had to re-examine everything that was going on in my life. Now, I was forced to do that. But what I find is that women who reach out to work with me or read my book or do my programs, it gives them an opportunity to slowly, gently, and lovingly really put a spotlight onto these different things. But you can do that yourself. You can do that through journaling in the morning as you wake, doing relaxation, meditation, mindfulness in the afternoon, and really trying to slow things down. If you feel that people are pushing you or pressurizing you or bullying you into something, that's an alarm bell. Just say to that person, thank you, I appreciate your concern for whatever it is that they're doing, and just slow everything down. Come back to your body, come back to your feelings, come back to your empathy and energy, and notice how that's feeling, and allow yourself, give yourself permission to tune in a way that is respectful and kind and compassionate to yourself. All too often, we are buffeted around by the pings and the bongs and the beeps and the rings that are bombarding all of us these days. It's very hard for people who are very compassionate and empathetic and connected to other people to take a step to the side, just take a breather and just allow yourself some time to respond rather than react. And because if you're in a constant reactionary state to other people, firstly, you're never going to keep those people happy. Those people that are demanding and bullying and toxic, they are who they are. They're never going to change. And we are powerless over these people. But you can change just little by little. Don't make big things if it's scary to you. Just do small things by firstly noticing, how does that person affect you? I've heard a lady share the other day just how highly toxic her boss was and how ill he made her. And she decided for her what was important to her was to look at getting another job. And she said already a 50% reduction in her pain. She had no idea that some person could be so toxic that they were actually affecting her health. And again, it's very hard for the vast majority of our population in the West to understand the connection between what happens externally and how it affects us internally. For me, it was one of the toughest things to accept. I got that I needed to change my diet. I got that I needed to look at my products. I got that perhaps I need to look at my workplace environment, my home environment. But the emotional component and people component and the past, that was a real challenge for me. So if you can even just start to open up your mind to what is affecting you, that can really help you on your journey forward, on your pathway to finding out what is preventing your body from healing. Why is your body not healing? Because your body, as you know by now, is always wanting to heal itself. So we then ask, what is preventing that natural healing process? If we can look at it from that perspective and change the questions that we're asking, we can have a profound impact on the direction of our health, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And this kind of brings me on to coming back to Viktor Frankl again. He was a psychologist, and he was sadly in 3 concentration camps. And he in his book Man's Search for Meaning, well, in our woman's search for meaning here with endometriosis, we're asking, why has this shown up? And there's a particular type of therapy that he developed called logotherapy, Logo therapy. And it was literally about so the will for meaning. So trying to find meaning in, as I say, what has happened to you to this point, and poses the question, what if it's not happened to you, but what if it's happened for you? What if everything that's happened to you up until this point, all the pain, distress, suffering, disappointment, everything that's happened to you has been or is for a greater purpose? It is part of your training for the future. How would that feel and what would that mean? So this is where, with this condition, as you're learning to educate yourself about it, because that is the most important thing. And what I call, as you know by now, the AIEIE, A for awareness, I for information, E for education, I for inspiration, to keep yourself inspired, leads to empowerment. You all have the capacity to put this condition in remission. It may feel overwhelming at times. Of course it is. When you're in the grips of pain, the idea of me saying that must feel ridiculous. I know, I've been there. But if you can adopt the philosophy of little by little, and little becomes a lot, you give yourself tiny little ant-sized wins along the way. So make the changes that you need to make, but make them small and incremental. If you're anything like me, you probably did big, massive goals and big, massive leaps and then felt exhausted and burnt out. What we do on this journey is we have to do it little by little by little, because these little things start to build and become something else. And whether it's healthy eating, whether it's the products, whether it's the property, but we also have to look at the people. Who are the people in our lives that are toxic to us? Who are the people in our lives that are uplifting and encouraging to you? If you don't have at least one person, a believing mirror, someone that you can borrow their belief of you from, then you need to find that person. And also the past, what has perhaps gone on in the past. Now, if you can start with getting borrowed belief from somebody, that in itself can really uplift you from an energetic perspective and even hormonal perspective. When I talk about the happy hormones, from the dopamine, what I call DOS, D-O-S-E, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. We're wanting more of those hormones in your body to help support your body to do what it naturally wants to do, which of course is to heal itself. So as I'm drawing it to a close here, I just want you to think, what is the meaning behind this disease for you? It may seem a weird question. You may not even have an answer, but I'm going to encourage you to just write that question down the back of your journal. And before you go to sleep, and say, what has this been teaching me? Is it teaching me that I need to develop more self-awareness, more self-compassion, be less critical, maybe tone down my perfectionist a little bit so it doesn't beat me into a pulp? What meanings it taught you, and what is coming up for you as you're paying attention to your body and your feelings? What is it teaching you? So as I say, the second edition of my book, it comes out tomorrow. So make sure to go and order it. It's been fully revised and updated. We've got great testimonials from doctors who support the work that I'm doing now, from other women who have seen great results as well. It's got 3 extra chapters, and I really hope that this will continue to help encourage you on your journey. As always, if you need additional support, remember, you are not alone. One of my students said to me just the other day, after hearing from some of the other success stories, she said, oh my goodness, she was saying exactly what I felt, but I used to feel that it was me, it was only me, and that I was alone. You're not alone. Your fact that you're here listening to this podcast, the fact that you are considering taking a positive and progressive approach and looking at things differently, speaks volumes about who you are as a woman. And know that it is possible. Your body is amazing, just that nobody ever told us that before, but I'm sharing that with you now. So keep looking after yourself, keep you number one, to your health, and we'll speak soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K Laidlaw, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one. The world needs a healthy you.